transform your roasted chicken into this spicy honey and mustard marinated chicken. Fragrant and bursting with flavor. A great way to spice up your midweek dinners. Yes.
I want to ask you something. Since we're focusing on it's World Honeybee Day, Bee Day, right? What did the South African bee say to the rest of the bees around the world?
The South African bee, I don't know, what?
Just be lekker.
Just be lekker. Yes, and that's what this recipe is.
This recipe right here is lekker, and it is all thanks to our wonderful bee because we're using honey in it. We're having a barbecue honey mustard flavor going on here, but we want to make sure that those sweet flavors of the honey that we were just exposed to are practically infused as much as they can into this dish that we're going to be making. So, to start off, as you can see, I've got some water, not a lot, just a quarter cup of water in here, and we're adding in some mustard powder because we are making a honey mustard chicken for this.
So it's not enough just to have either the Dijon mustard or any other type of mustard. You've got to go in with that mustard powder.
The reason for this specifically is because we want to intensify that mustard flavor. And yes, if we're using just normal mustard, it would be fine, but we just want to intensify it a little bit. And the reason we're doing this with the water is also just to make sure that we release those flavors of the mustard and we intensify it.
Gotcha.
So in here, because we did say that we're having a bit of a glaze, we're adding some soy sauce, which is why you see I don't have a lot of salt here because we're going to be getting that saltiness
from the soy sauce.
And the star of the show today, I actually would just want to do a
drizzle it, honey.
In this.
Drizzle it.
At that.
It would actually be interesting to find out from Michael which honey did we decide to go with out of the spread that he had in front of us. Maybe it's something to ask him later.
Maybe it is. And another thing is, I'm also just going to guess. Mike, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. But I think the one we might have gone with is just that's one that's very easily available in the stores for everyone. That amber one. I can't remember what it's called, but I think
the amber.
Yeah, I think that's the one we like because everyone can easily access that one. So we're going to let that sit. In fact, let me add the whole grain mustard as well and just let all of this cook nicely because this, in essence, is going to be our marinade, our glaze, the finishing off of our chicken before we put it into the oven.
And, you know, for every South African who has not tried honey mustard, either dipping sauce, marinade, glaze on your chicken, where have you been? Or maybe it's just because I'm a chicken connoisseur. I think I have tried my chicken every type of way, and this has to be one of my favorites.
You were even telling us about a certain food company that actually discontinued a sauce of yours that was a fave.
I'm still hot
sore. To cancel them.
So, you know what? This is actually encouraging me to say no more to fast food and make it from scratch myself. You know, let us not depend on these big chains and let's make it ourselves from scratch. Because number one, you know what's in it. You know how it's going to feed you, what it's going to do for your body, and also you can add as more or as little as you want.
Exactly. That's exactly what you're here for. So before I get too far, it is important to make sure that our honey mustard sauce is sort of a little cool before we add it onto the chicken. But obviously everything is going into the oven. So before I go on to that next step, Bali, we do have our veggies that we're going to be serving with this. And the other reason why I love this dish is because it is a high nutrient dish because you've got your potatoes, which is your starch, you've got your carrots, you basically got your protein as well from the chicken. So it's quite a filling dish, but it's also delicious.
And also easy to use. This is, okay, I wouldn't really call it a one-pot wonder because, I mean, you still got to mix up your veggies in a different kind of container before you do put it in the oven and that baking tray. But it's super simple. I mean, you've already got your oil here, just coating it first so that when I do go in with my spices, I make sure that the spices stick to each veggie. So that's why I went in with my oil first. We got some salt, we got some pepper, we got some salt as well. And then we also have some chili baby, some dried out chili flakes to add in.
So even those chili flakes, if I wanted to, I could add them into our chicken, but the whole idea is we're really trying to ensure that we focus on the flavors we're talking about.
Yeah, we are heroing.
Yeah, we're heroing it. And the other thing is whenever you make a plate of food, it is always important to have those different flavor elements. You want, like I always say this, you're salty, you're sweet, you're bitter, you're sour. When all of that comes together in your mouth, it literally becomes a bomb of flavor because of all those different elements in there. So I'd like to think that our sauce is nice and cooled down now. As you can see, I remember Mike mentioned this. He spoke about viscosity. When he was talking about his honey, this is the viscosity we want for our sauce. So we've made our sauce and all those flavors have come together. We had the whole grain mustard in there and we also had the powdered mustard powder that we added and just added a bit of water to it. Pale, you're putting down a base of our veggies there.
Yes.
People might want to find out why the heck we're doing that part because, I mean, you've got your chicken and your veggies. The reason for that is we, in essence, creating a barrier at the bottom of our pan so that when we put our chicken in there, it doesn't stick, and that's why we've also got that baking paper inside of that pan.
Yeah, I always put, okay, so actually funny, it's so funny being able to work with chefs because you also stay learning. I just kept seeing my mom and my aunties and everyone in the family doing this first, always putting the veggies first, but that's so interesting, just to create that barrier at the bottom.
And also because we're using honey, you do know that honey does caramelize quite easily, so if you're going to put it directly without putting any type of barrier, it will stick, but we don't want that. But so now that all of this is done, we can start layering our chicken over this beautiful bed of veggies.
And I've got a taste tester here. I'm going to start with the veggies because one thing about me, my mom always said, start with the veggies before you eat your meat because the meat is kind of like dessert for me.
So while you do that, I'll tell the rest of South Africa. This mixture that we've got here goes into the oven to bake. Start it off at 180. Once you start cooking and you want to get that beautiful glaze and beautiful caramelization, increase it to 220 the last 5 to 10 minutes and you'll get that beautiful golden brown that you've got on that drumstick you have in your hand.
Honey mustard magic. That is what I would like to call this. It is delicious. It is succulent. The flavors to me. And the honey and mustard is honey and mustarding, one thing about it. But we are not done with our honey-inspired menu here today. Stay tuned for some rice and beef meatballs with a honey mayo sauce. Girl, you're doing the things.